I'm John Seaman at Road America Racetrack in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. This is the Fall Vintage Festival of Historic and Vintage Race Cars. Many of the cars here today were raced back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and include a variety of sports racing, historic racing, and vintage cars. This is the Vintage Production Group, and it will feature the Porsches, the Speedsters, the Super 90s from the mid-60s. In addition to that, there will be Speedwell and Bug-Eye Sprites, Morgans, Triumphs, and a variety of other production vintage cars. We have also interviewed some of the drivers, and we'll have them featured along with their cars.
My name is Henry Adamson. I am an officer and director of the Vintage Sports Car Drivers Association, and we are putting on the Elkhart Lake Vintage Festival, which we do every fall since 1985. This is now a 3-day event of races. We have 9 different race groups for sports cars and racing cars that are of a certain age, which means about 20 years old or older. The oldest car we have here today is 1927. The newest would be 72 or 3. We have a touring group which allows more modern sports cars to go around Elkhart Lakes Road America at a reasonable pace. And this year we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of the last race through the streets of Elkhart Lake. In the early 50s, in fact in 1950, there was no place in the Midwest to race sports cars. So the Chicago region of the Sports Car Club of America took a leaf out of the original Sports Car Club of America group in New York and found themselves a resort that needed a shot in the arm, and the resort was Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And they came up here and organized a race through the streets around Elkhart Lake. And there are a lot of funny stories pertaining to the original organization. Not everybody in the local population wanted to race, and they had to, local sheriff had to take the only man who could enjoin the races off fishing, so he couldn't be got for an injunction. And they ran the race as a National Guard exercise, and it was very successful. The first race main event was run by Jim Kimberly in his Ferrari, and the next 2 years were even more successful. They lengthened the course so that it ran right through the center of the town of Elkhart Lake, past Sebring's Resort. And the next 2 races were won by John Fitch, driving the All-American Cunningham sports car, against fairly international opposition, Jaguars, Ferraris, and that sort of thing. In 1952, there was a very slight accident, and a spectator was slightly injured. And later that year, there was a nasty accident in Watkins Glen on the streets, and they ceased having street racing. There was, in fact, a Wisconsin statute that forbade it that went back to 1912 when the American Grand Prize and Vanderbilt Cup were run outside Milwaukee. This annoyed a lot of people, so they made it illegal. They had rallies in 53 and 4 to keep people interested, and Fred Wacker and his engineer and friend Wally Mitchell went out and took a plane and took Cliff Tufty, who was a local contractor, and they flew over the area looking for a good site to build a track. And Cliff picked this site because it had a quarry on the site. And in 54 and 5, he built on this site the best road racing circuit in North America. It has the best road bed. It doesn't break up. Has to be repaved occasionally, and the circuit has only gotten better since then. The first vintage race for older cars in the Midwest, was held here in 1959 as part of the June Sprints, and we are continuing that happy tradition.
I'm with Bud Bennett, and the car is Peter Gregg's Can-Am Lola. Bud has been campaigning the car in the Auto Week Vintage Series. And Bud, could you tell us about the car and its history?
Well, the car's a 1970 T165 Lola. It's ran the Can-Am Series. It's powered by a Chevrolet big block engine. It's a 494 engine. It produces about 720 horsepower. The car now runs in the Vintage Series, but it's still probably one of the fastest type of cars running.
When you prepare the car for the Vintage Series, what modifications do you need to make, or is the car very much like it was when it was raced by Peter Gregg?
The car's probably even better now than it was when Peter Gregg ran it, because there's a lot of safety improvements that have been made to the car, better brakes, better engines, the tires are better, and although the cars aren't driven nearly as hard now as they were then, I mean, they still drive the cars pretty hard.
Now, could you tell us who owns the car and how it was acquired?
Larry Castleman owns the car, and he was interested in the vintage cars. A couple of his friends got him interested, and he purchased the car just about 2 years ago. And he's been running it ever since, and occasionally I'll drive it, and it's quite a lot of fun.
From the Auto Week Series this summer, what outstanding race do you remember? Which one of the tracks do you remember the most?
Well, see, my son also runs a Can-Am car. In fact, my son won the series, but they're all a lot of fun, and we usually have 5 or 6 of the Can-Am cars in any given race. This weekend is the least amount of cars that we've taken to any race, so they're all a lot of fun.
Joe Sexton has a very rare car at the vintage races this weekend. This is a 1953 Kurtis. Joe, would you tell us about the car?
Yes, this is built by Frank Kurtis, who built a lot of Kurtis craft cars for the Speedway years ago, built a lot of the midgets after World War II. His first street sports car It was built in '49, and that didn't sell too well, and that later went on to become known as the Muntz Jet. Then he came back in '53 and built this car and a 500S. The difference between the M and the S is the S is an open-wheeled car, and the M was a street version. This particular car, we've had it in Mexico for the last 4 years doing the Carra Panamericana race. And we've got it up here today testing it out. We'll be leaving here for Mexico in a couple weeks to do the Carrera again. It starts October the 23rd.
When you are out there with some of the other cars, how does the car compare in handling with some of the cars that are quite a bit more recent?
Well, this car was built off of the chassis of the Indy cars. It handles remarkably well. It's got torsion bar suspension in it. The basic design of this car, the chassis came off of Vukovic's fuel injection special that he won Indy twice with. But the car handles tremendously. I was very easy with it up here. I don't want any little scratches till we go to Mexico. Last year we got all the way down there and we had a little trouble. I don't want to go 4,500 miles and have a breakdown, but we've tested the car out. We think this year we have a good chance of winning. The first year we went down, we won this car in its class. So this year might be our last year, I don't know, but we hope to go out with a win this year.
Well, it certainly is a great car, and it's really nice to see these type of cars restored and running on the track. Woodward races Formula Juniors, and he is participating in a series called the Ryan Transportation Series Monoposto Register. Bob, I'd like you to tell our audience about the Monoposto Register, what it is, what cars are in it, and the series itself.
Yes, the Monoposto Register was started 7 years ago, and there were 5 or 6 of us, mostly Chicago-based people, and myself. I'm from Dubuque. Got together because there were very few open-wheel cars that were showing up in vintage racing. And we felt we had to do something to create a vehicle to attract more open-wheel cars. So we formed the Monoposto Register. And originally, it consisted exclusively of Formula Junior type of cars. But over the last 6 years, it has developed into a sponsored race series of 5 different classes. Everything from Formula 2 and Formula B cars in the fastest category to Formula V, Volkswagen-powered cars, and front-engine juniors in the slowest of the 5 classes. Ryan is a trucking company based in Canada and Detroit, and they became our sponsor last year, and they're our sponsor this year, and they will be again next year. And so we've named the series after this company since they're our primary sponsor. We have gone from as few as half dozen open-wheel cars 7 years ago to grids this year of as many as 60 open-wheel cars. And in certain venues this year we've actually divided the single-seater open-wheel groups of cars into 2 races because we had too many of these types of cars for a single race. That is a pretty good indication of the success the Monoposto Register has experienced in the last several years. Some people are curious about the name Monoposto. Monoposto is Italian, and mono is single in Italian. Posto is posterior, or at the bottom. So Monoposto is single-seater, or in our case, open-wheel cars with 1 seat, no fenders and no doors. But Monoposto is single-seater in Italian. Also, within the framework of the Monoposto Register Race Series, we have at each of our 16 events a concours in which 3 or 4 of the prettiest, best restored cars are Bennett Monoposto Crystal Beers. This concours is sponsored and has been for 3 years by The Last Detail, Tom Snellback's company in Chicago. We have a couple of other interesting awards associated with our series. The Vintage Motorsport magazine sponsors the Vintage Motorsport Cup, which is awarded at the end of our race series season to an individual who has contributed a measure towards the development and operation of the Monoposto Register. We also have a new program started last year called FAST, Funds Awarded for Safety and Travel. FAST is an acronym. And the idea of Funds Awarded for Safety and Travel is to award mileage to the people who participate and who are not involved in any accidents or incidents during the race season. And then we have a $10,000 kitty, the money that's been put up by our various sponsors, and that is apportioned out at the end of the year to those people who are eligible, who did more of our race series events and who were without fault in any incidents on the track. So it's all designed for fun. We're all amateurs. All we get for our is trophies, and most of those aren't worth too much. But we try to promote large grids and very safe, sane, yet energetic racing. And that's the way it's evolved, and I am sure that's the way it's going to continue.
I'm with Steve Pappas and his chief mechanic Dave, and they're going to tell us about this Mazda.
Okay, this car was originally originated from Miami in 1985. It was brought from by MSP Racing, Terry By, and it was pretty much campaigned in the endurance type races in 85 to maybe 89, and it was most successfully run in 86 and 87 at Daytona. It finished third in its class, in the Camel Light class. And it's basically, it seems like it's a lot bigger than a Camel Light car. It's almost like a full-size P car, but instead of having a V8 or a turbocharged motor, it has a Mazda 13B rotary motor in it, with generating about 320 horsepower. And it was quite successful. I mean, these cars are successful in the long races because of their sturdiness. And the motor, the chassis is carbon fiber. It's pretty heavy duty, but it wasn't very competitive in the short tracks or the short races because of its weight. And it was a big car. They ended up cutting the tail off, later on in the years to make the car run a little more competitive on the short tracks. And this is like one of 6 that was brought into the country, and this is the first JM19, and probably the only long-tail one left. And I just had the car, I bought it a couple years ago, and had Jim Downing and Dave and I, did restoration on the car.
Dave, what is unique about the rotary engine, and how do you have to prepare it for endurance races?
Well, usually we have to just, when we come in and it's cool, we have to put warm-up plugs in it and warm it up, and then put the race plugs in it. And it's a 2-rotor engine, and really it's just checking over everything and making sure everything's tight. And it's pretty much all it is checking everything out.
Generates a lot of heat.
Yeah, definitely is a lot of heat from this engine.
You have to watch for fires a lot sometimes in the back here. These cars are pretty loud and obnoxious, and they quieted them. I guess when you first brought them in here, you can see it had a plate right here. There used to just be an exhaust hole, and the pipe would run right off the motor about this far, and it was like damaging your ears. So they started adding mufflers on here to accommodate IMSA's noise requirements.
Okay. Do you campaign the car this year then?
This is the first outing for it. We got the car back about a couple weeks ago, and I took it out yesterday in the rain, and it's a good car. Handles good. I'm still learning on it, but it seems like a very reliable car.
That's fine. Peter Kitchak has got a Porsche 911 RSR Carrera, and this is one of the Martini Racing cars. Would you tell us about some of the racing history of the car, Peter?
Well, the car was originally built in 1973 by the Porsche factory. It was one of 48 cars they built then. It originally came to the United States, and it was driven by Jürgen Barth, who was a factory driver then, in the first race of the season that year in 1973 at Sebring. It was then raced from that point in time forward by a man by the name of Stefan Edlis, and it did a lot of racing primarily in the U.S. It did have much European or any European history, but raced successfully in a period of about 10 or 12 years from 1973 to the mid-80s. It was sold a couple of times, and I bought the car in the spring of this year, and it was in pretty bad shape, and we tore the whole car apart and redid the motor and redid the whole car, repainted it, and it is what we see now.
What is the engine of the car and displacement and approximate horsepower?
The car has a 6-cylinder motor, and the cylinders are horizontally opposed, and it has 3,000 cubic centimeters displacement, which translates to about 180 cubic inches, has around 310 horsepower.
How do you feel the car does on the Road America track?
Well, we had a great race this morning that we won, and the car is fast. It's probably on the long straightaways here is about 160 miles an hour, and the car just works very, very well here.
Augie Pabst has been auto racing for quite a few years. In fact, he is one of the major proponents of vintage racing. Augie has just come back from the Colorado Grand. Would you tell us about the event?
Well, this is the 4th year that they've held it, and it's held every October or late September. They try to gauge it when the aspen trees are turning yellow, and they happen to hit it just right this year. It's a 1,000-mile to 1,300-mile rally tour, I think might be a better way to put it, through Colorado. It's 4 days. We average 300 miles a day. And we're escorted by the Colorado Highway Patrol because it's charity in part for the Widows and Orphans Fund of the Colorado Highway Patrol. There's no speeding, theoretically. Everybody behaves pretty well. I mean, everybody once in a while lets it out, but only in the safe areas. And the scenery is breathtaking. The weather we hit this year was fantastic. It was like this. I mean, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. It starts out cool in the morning, gets to about 80 midday, then cools off again in the afternoon. This year we were in Steamboat. We started in Beaver Creek, which is near Vail, and then we went to Steamboat Springs the first night, Grand Junction the second night, and Telluride the third night. And then we ended up in Beaver Creek. And yesterday we had our brunch farewell, and then I got in the plane with Bruce McCaw, and we flew back here, and he just took delivery of his GTO Ferrari. So I don't know if I told you what the Grand was or not. I drove an SS100 Jaguar in 1937, and it had straight pipes on it. And boy, did it echo when you get into the canyons, and Jesus, it was echoing back and forth.
What were some of the other cars that stood out in the event?
Well, there was a GTO Ferrari, a Hispano Suiza, Stutz Blackhawk, 2 or 3 Lagondas, actually probably 8 or 9 Ferraris in total, 4 or 5 Bugattis, Miller, you know, the old Miller IndyCar type, various MGs, other Jaguars, Mercedes. I think the oldest Mercedes was a 1915. There was a 1911 Lancia that the couple who owned it drove it from Los Angeles, and we're going to drive it back home again.
Getting back to vintage racing here at Road America, for the Chicago Historic Races this summer, you had quite a challenge with a Socio and his Scarab.
Don Orozco?
Orozco and his Scarab.
And his Scarab, yeah.
How about a little information about that car compared to yours?
Well, they're really...
His is a Mark 1, right? And yours is a Mark 2?
Well, Mark 1, 2, and 3 is actually, they built 3 cars, 3 front-engine cars. And the first one was Mark 1, the second one was Mark 2, and the third one was Mark 3, but identical, except his was the first one built. Okay. And it has left-hand drive. And when Lance finished the first car, he realized that on the road courses in this country, there are more right-hand turns than left-hand turns. Well, believe me, sitting on the inside of the turn gives you a slight advantage. So the next 2 cars had right-hand drive. So Don's is left-hand, mine's right-hand. And we were going to have a hell of a nice race, but an embarrassing thing happened. At the start, a couple cars got in front of me, and so there was Don and 3 or 4 other cars coming into 5 right here. I thought, I'll just go a little deeper and I'll brake them. And fortunately, I said I'll do it on the outside instead of the inside. The brake pedal broke off. And of course, my heart just stopped. Thank God I was on the outside, because if I'd been on the inside, I really would have taken out 4 or 5 other cars, because there'd been no way I could have. I dumped it in third and dumped it in second, and then I got it into first, and I got it slowed down just enough so I didn't take out the tire barrier down here.
That was a scary moment.
Oh, it scared the hell out of me. From now on, we're going to really check things over, because it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. How's the Bentley doing?
The Bentley's just doing fine, thank you. In fact, there was a Bentley almost identical to mine on the Colorado Grand. And someday I might take that on. The problem, though, is they're so hard to drive. It's a very difficult crash box, and it needs power steering or somebody that's really built better than I am.
Right. And the Aston?
Aston's great shape, thank you. In fact, there were 3 Aston Martins on the Colorado Grand. And the Jaguar's still together, and we're putting together the mid-engine Scarab now for racing. We hope to have it for the Chicago Historic Races this next year, in 1993.
That'll be a rare car too, I assume.
It's the only one.
The only one.
The only one.
So.
It has a beautiful history to it, and it's quick.
Yeah.
Only trouble is it runs in the same race as the front-engine Scarab, because they were built within a couple of years of one another. So my son will just have to drive one. I'll have to twist his arm and see if I can get him to drive one, and I'll drive the other.
How does he like vintage racing? I assume he loves it.
Well, he loves it, and he's good at it. He's running a Shelby Can-Am in 2 weeks at the runoffs in Atlanta. And I let him drive the Scarab this last summer for a few laps, and he was just ecstatic.
That Scarab's a fabulous car, and everyone is just so pleased that you keep the Scarabs in mind and restoration, and it's just...
Well, thank you. But that's what the cars are meant for, is to be enjoyed. And, you stick them away in a garage and don't drive them. It's sort of silly.